All right, we are live. We have a new headline, a new bio. Bring back childlike wonder. Bring back childlike wonder, curiosity, rabbit holes. Dive into the rabbit holes. Explore the concept of flow. Get into flow. When you are into flow, realize how it feels like. Realize how you don't even know how the time passes by. And it feels amazing. It feels amazing to engage your brain, to engage all your senses. And that's a new bio. Or that's going to be the new title. That's going to be the new description. Bring back childlike wonder. And also, we have this new Filson jacket. And let's get into this. We're looking into Hadrian manufacturing. All right, we are already seeing posts by TBPN, Patrick, McCormick, Andrew, and someone else who I think I know. Let's start from here. Whoa, Chris Power, techno-industrialist, believer in hot power and Pax Americana, automated factories, and the new American workforce and how we win. We asked Chris Power what he thought of the tariffs announced this week. We offshored all manufacturing to developing countries because we didn't want to deal with it. All great power conflicts hinge on commercial manufacturing being able to pivot to defense when it really matters. This is a very accurate response to force the reindustrialization of the US.
I think it's incredible for all manufacturing businesses, and I think the pushback you're seeing from people who've got crappy e-commerce businesses built on the backs of Chinese Temu textile facilities are the problem. I mean, what happened since the 70s through the 90s, built on the backs of Chinese Temu textile facilities, are the problem. I mean, what happened since the 70s through the 90s is we offshored all manufacturing to developing countries because we didn't want to deal with it. And all great power conflicts hang off the back of commercial manufacturing being able to pivot to defense when it really matters. And what people miss is China, especially, but all developing countries, are not just cheaper in labor. They've been actively subsidizing, basically to make it free, energy, capital, equipment, labor. And when they export manufactured goods to the US, often they're getting refunds of the government of 30 to 50% through this kind of export tariffs. So this is not, us.
This is so beautiful. This is so beautiful. This puts so much things into perspective. There's the difference between listening to really smart people versus listening to people around you. People around you, they don't understand things. They don't understand how things work, and they just read the newspaper and they basically regurgitate the same thing. But when you look at smart people, they will tell you that, hey, everybody around you who is actually complaining about this, they are running these cheap e-commerce business that even you don't like, even you don't want their products. So what's really important is reindustrialization. What's really important is to bring back the manufacturing over here. Make sure that you are not part of the exploitation. Make sure you're building high quality products. Make sure you're bringing the manufacturing back home. And also, now that we have the technology, now we have AI, and now we understand that you can automate even the factories, thinking factories from ground up.
Raising tariffs unfairly. It's just leveling the playing field.
Okay, I'm happy that I chose Hadrian right now.
What's already been happening. I mean, often what we see with competitive Chinese prices for CNC machining is that the cost of the raw material we can buy is more than the part that Chinese selling to a US manufacturer. And that's just all through subsidies, right? Of all these key areas and these export tariffs. And what that's done to the country is, you can think about this as kind of like a
What is this? Why is there Xi Jinping over here?
balance sheet, right? It's kind of like what DeepSeek is doing. That obviously doesn't cost a cent per query. They're subsidizing it so they draw the consumer into that platform. They gain all the leverage over everything. It's the exact same thing with manufacturing. And then what happens over 3 decades is you offshore all the skills and the capital equipment to developing countries. And then when we go into a conflict, they've got all the manufacturing capacity. So I think this is a very accurate response to the forced deindustrialization of the US through aggressive trade policies from China over the last 40 years. And this is just barely making it even. Now, yes, are some goods and services going to be more expensive? 100%. What this is going to cause, though, for American manufacturing, and bear in mind, I would say 90% of what American manufacturers buy, even if their revenue is on the NASDAQ, is offshore. So we're flowing 90% of the volume from NASDAQ revenue or Nike shoes to developing countries and paying them to do our stuff, and then they're subsidizing it by 50 or 60%. So what you'll see from here is this forced reindustrialization of the US, because now we have to build more factories in the US, which is going to cause this now huge boom in manufacturing skills and talent to service sectors. And because our skilled labor in the country is aging out, because we told all the kids in the 80s and 90s that if you didn't have a 4-year college degree, you're an idiot, is now we have to build factories that are highly advanced, use the tens of the people, and are exciting for kids to get into. And it's not about replacing jobs. It's just going to be different jobs. You're going to be a robotics technician. You're running 10 machines at once versus doing absolutely everything with your hands. And this is the way we prepare for 2029. And this is the strategy, right? As you tariff everything, we bring back manufacturing to the US. In the next 4 to 5 years, you're going to see the greatest reindustrialization of the country, so that we actually have the skilled trades on shore. So that God willing, we don't get into a conflict. But if we do, we might have a hope of doing it because you can turn a dishwasher facility into a missile factory pretty quickly. And I think everyone who's kind of complaining about this is kind of part of the problem where, we don't want to deal with manufacturing here. Oh, my Temu, my shitty wrapper over Temu, my e-commerce business. Yeah, you're part of the problem. You've been trading dog and cat pictures on the internet for 30 years, and we gave away the farm to China. What are we talking about? This is a real country. We're going to make stuff in America. We've been pushing through this through NIA and obviously through Hadrian for a while, and I think the administration has got it absolutely correct.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
I think it's incredible for all.
It makes sense. This makes a lot of sense. As I'm having more conversations with people right now, it's very interesting. At the end of the day, what the US government is right now doing is thinking the best for their country. And every country has the right to do the best for themselves. And they have the power. They are the most powerful. It seems like they have been taken advantage of a lot, and they are doing the right thing now. They didn't have the right leadership. They became weak. They are still powerful. They became a little bit weak, and now they're trying to go back to being powerful. And this is very interesting how everybody around you is now reacting. All right. Read this one. This is 2022. Hadrian builds semi-automated factories that build precision parts for rockets and satellites. It just raised $90 million from A16Z, Lux, and Founders Fund. Wants to reverse American decline and keep the solar system free. Keep the solar system free. All right, 23. You're forging a new partnership with Hadrian Space to manufacture precision parts for Enderville's systems. Hadrian's automated software first approach is breaking the mold in defense and aerospace manufacturing. This is very interesting.
California, in Hadrian's Factory 2, as opposed to headquarters as well.
Yep.
And here with Chris Power, the CEO and founder of Hadrian, in this small little space. Dear God, you guys have basically spun this up from nothing in less than 2 years, right?
Yeah. So the company is just under 3 years old now. We've been in this building for 13 months.
Well, what was your kind of professional background before founding Hadrian? What led you to it?
I actually studied accounting and tax law.
Okay.
Which accounting is actually very useful for running a real business.
Turns out.
With not automated software, 70% gross margins. And then I started my career in e-commerce in Australia when there was the very early days of eBay, no Amazon. Helped a couple of founders grow a small but very fast growing e-commerce business in Australia. Went to work for the largest e-commerce player in Australia doing a lot of software, digital e-commerce, and then ended up being the head of sales at a very technically focused startup that did workforce management software. And you can think about that. If you've got 5,000 employees, very heavy on industrial businesses, so scheduling, time, payroll. Basically, we go into companies with massive workforces and help them load balance their facilities so that your auto scheduling facilities or security guards.
Something's happening with the camera and the auto focusing over here.
To optimize for the customer outcome, sales, or throughput. So that background is really important for getting very good at going into real-world companies that are operationally complex and figuring out where and where not to build software and what products really mean for the real world and how to stitch together data, systems, and people to actually make businesses run with software in the right way instead of building cool software that is great for software engineers but doesn't necessarily create the real-world impacts, which is a country mile from software works and someone buys it to it actually creates business value in operationally complex environments. And that really led me to this overall thesis that the only way to automate the industrial base in America is to basically vertically integrate the automation company with the industrials company so that software engineers and people who can actually automate things are literally 1 foot away from the problem. And you're owning your own risk and cost to build the correct automation solution versus building software that doesn't necessarily solve the real problem for the end industrial company.
I know a lot of people that have similar passions and ambitions to starting an manufacturing base. And all dream, I think, of either owning a factory, building factories, helping with that, and then either work on a specific technology or maybe software that will aid that. You're no, you kind of need to do the whole thing from the get-go. Can you talk a little bit about either, I think that decision's clear why, but talk about either, I don't know, was it the balls that it took to do it and to be I'm going to increase capital to do this? Was it what kind of made you what were the kind of tough decision notes that you had to make to do that?
So I think a tough decision point was once I committed to this philosophy, everything is hard. It's what hard do you pick, right? And I never wanted to build a software company where I felt like I was going to work for a decade on something and it didn't really have the impact that I wanted. All companies are hard, basically. Whether you're a small software company or a small manufacturer or a large software company or something like Tesla, everything is hard. And my view is, whether we succeed or fail, I would rather spend all my energy and all my time on something that if it works is a generationally impactful company
versus something that if it works, like, hey, it's a great software company, it's a great company in general, but maybe doesn't have the impact that that's what I care about is what do I work on for the next decade or two that can have the biggest impact in the country and the things that they care about. In terms of the balls, once you kind of understand that like the first 5 years of any company are kind of equally as hard and equally as complex, and you get over this thing and you realize most of the problem is can you find enough smart people who believe the same things you are to go solve these incredibly challenging problems. That's something that I learned from Sam Altman, is that it's kind of easier to start a hard company than it is to start an easy company, because most of it is can you get the right people and the right skill sets with enough momentum, build this talent base that can like generate the vision. And it's actually easy to do that with something completely insane. And I'll give you like a recruiting example is software engineers are super smart these days. It's not 10 years ago, like they all know what the value of their time is, they all know what the value of their equity is. And a lot of our early people, they'll say this, literally join because it's like, this is so insane that we can see a path to like changing our lives versus, oh, making like a CAD software tool. It's like, yeah, it's equally as hard, equally as challenging, but it's like the grand vision of the thing and like how insane it is kind of part of the point in the first place, right? Yeah.
Speaking of building our things, can you talk a little bit about the technology stack that Hadrian uses, and maybe I'll step in other bridges to factory automation?
Yeah, so we try and learn from as much of the previous failures to build automated factories as possible. And categorically, there are a couple of key learnings. One is, if you automate, let's say there's 6 basic processes that have scarce resources or they're expensive or they're unautomated, right? You can just start with one of those, and you automate one of them. So you can think about like a software API or some compute cost, right? There's like 6 transforms you need to do, one of them super cheap, but the net result is the thing still sucks, right? The first thing is, you have to do full stack automation across the board at like roughly the same automation rate. And then it becomes obvious what to build. And basically you start with the meta factory. So we had to build our own ERP and manufacturing execution system, which starts from customers and ends with ship's part, but is the workflow and process layer that runs through the whole factory, as well as a lot of scheduling and load balancing to do the complex coordination and shuffling. And then at each task node, right, which could be as simple as printing a shipping label, it could be as complicated as automating CAN programming, that drops into a separate engineering team that is focused on kind of the API between those links and massively lowering the time cost while having that node in the factory be as error prone as humanly possible. And the second is different, right? If you're automating, you don't need a machinist. There is a whole team of machining automation plus a robotics team that does that part of the stack. For our CAN programming automation, it's a mix of front-end engineers, back-end engineers, computational geometry, a lot of like machine learning, a lot of like algorithms to parse data. So we really look at it as one big engineering team, but the engineering domains across each internal product at Hadrian is so different that we're really looking for people who can understand the problem in the factory and can run a team of 5 to 6 people themselves. But often on a single team, it's like, cool, you've got a guy who used to build workflow software and a computational geometry engineer and a robotics engineer, or a machinist that learned how to write code. And we try and plug people together so that this team can operate autonomously as their own separate like startups within Hadrian versus this grand, complicated, there isn't a back-end engineering team or a front-end engineering team. We push it down into small teams as much as humanly possible. Obviously with common design standards, common APIs, common shared services like infrastructure, computational geometry, but really like the product and engineering management layer, you have to run them as like separate nodes because otherwise the complexity of coordination kills. Like that's kind of a core part of the set. Yeah.
We're sitting here in the middle of this factory. There's machines that are loud. Maybe like I'll turn off the noise reduction for a second so you hear them. And yet the engineering, the software engineering desks are right here.
Yep.
And while we were filming, you even mentioned like, to building a software, you don't just like figure it out and hand those requirements to software engineers. You make them do it for me. So you have to do it. And you go, I know you're just talking about that. You go a little bit deeper on that and you give up.
It's actually really cool, like how when you record a podcast and in the middle of the factory, you can see everybody working around. You can see how this office looks like.
Example of a decent way that's manifested.
So philosophically, the greatest companies in the world get their software engineers closest to the customer problem as humanly possible. And there are different ways of doing this. Rippling and Ramp have this great thing where engineers do the customer support tickets for as long as possible. Ramp does it with product managers, but it's the same thing. And basically, like people lose context as they get further and further away from the customer. So a lot of the gain is how can you push people who can solve the problem, software engineers, manufacturing engineers, as close to the problem as humanly possible. And you have to forget that we're all just people, right? So it's like the conversations you have at lunch, who's sitting next to you at your desk, is really what tricks your brain to like, is this a real problem? Is this the wrong problem? And because we're building so much simultaneously, one of the decisions we made was let engineers engineer, and like it generates a little bit more chaos and like essentially coordinated product and engineering team. But what you get is localized nodes of incredibly smart people making their own decisions, bounded by API contracts, of course, so they can't break the meta system. But like, the entire point is, yes, firstly, for a cultural change, like as a user of our software, doing very complicated manufacturing, how do you trust me to build the right software that I have to use to get my job done on a day-to-day basis and still ship parts to customers while using some great software, but the first version's always shitty? Working hand in hand next to you doing your job is a great way to build that trust between software engineers and people in manufacturing who maybe never worked with a software engineer before. And the second thing is, you want to remove product management as much as possible so that the person writing the code has seen the whole picture. And the easiest way to do that is write code next as close as humanly possible to the problem that you're trying to solve. We get as close as possible as the software engineer or the product manager can actually do the job. Sometimes it's not possible because some of these roles and what we do takes 5 to 10 years to learn. But yes, that's the whole thing, is how can you push the people who can solve the problem to the context level as close to the middle as humanly possible, and then let them rip. Yeah.
Sometimes I think you and I both in sort of hard tech world bubble. You're building it, and I'm just kind of documenting it. But I think we hear a lot of rhetoric maybe about like software's bad, stop building software, go build hardware, go build hardware, go build hardware. Obviously you're manifesting that too. But you also clearly have a lot of respect and interest building great software alongside that. How do you and your mind kind of balance to obviously like you're Hadrian more, but mentally, when you look at other people who build software, building hardware, both, how do you sort of judge, or like what are some of your kind of core tenets in analyzing and having thoughts about those two different things?
So I think one of the automated factory tricks is knowing not what to build and what the real value of that is. And often the hardest engineering problems are the cheapest for a human to do. And we got a lot of quotes from the Tesla crew, like, one of the things they learned is if you over-automate everything, you have to wind it back because the system's too brittle. The other thing we think about is, you you could spend hundreds of millions of dollars engineering the perfect factory. Maybe that actually doesn't make sense. We've got to grow. We're a commercial business. We don't have infinite amounts of funding. I'm certainly not a billionaire, by far not. So some of the decisions we make is like, okay, there are really hard engineering problems that actually cost someone like 2 minutes to do in the physical world, and we can train them really easily. So don't do that. Even though it's the hardest, most technically complicated, like robotics computer vision problem, it's not actually like real world valuable. I think you see a lot of robotics CB teams, especially, like solve these really hard engineering problems. When you look at the impact to the field, or look at the impacts to like a factory or whatever, it's often like the hardest engineering problem they solve because they don't have the context of what the real problem is. Whereas you can get this like nice arbitrage layer by having engineers like really understand what the time, risk, cost of doing that process is. That's really important. The second thing is we really believe in guided workflows and software that teaches you how to use it. And the reason why that's important is ultimately companies scale with culture, mission, and like process. And if you think about like any piece of software you've ever used, usually enterprise software is extremely hard to use, or you train people like Salesforce. What you get in factories is like, what that amounts to is like, you can't just hire someone and train them in 20 days to have to use the software. So a lot of things we focus on is consumer grade software that's so easy for someone to use that it kind of trains them to do their job as they're going through it. And that's a big product philosophy we have. And then the other thing is you can't break operations. So like the actual process of continually upgrading this factory with code or robotics is really important because we have to simultaneously run it while deploying automations into it. And that process of building new software, testing with one person, rolling it out to that 10-person operations team once we know it works, and like tracking it over time is like a really complicated dance. It's something we focus a lot. Yeah.
There's like this manufacturing that like by Elon Musk, where the algorithm where you do all these departments, really humbling undertaking, and then the last step is auditing. And in keys, I was wrong with it. There's no way to do it. I personally wonder a lot that in general, there's no way to mass manufacture things. Like you have to take a byproduct, a lot of starting blocks, and a lot of time figuring out how you're going to manufacture at scale that one thing. There's no general algorithm or general company, maybe up in Hadrian that's developing this that can take anything and do it as ability to mass manufacture. So you're going from the reverse. You're saying let's start with automation and work backwards to making these great products. And I know today it's specifically customer parts, but how do you think about kind of the future of mass manufacture from that perspective? Like, do you believe that there will ever be a general approach or a general company that can tackle anything when mass manufacture? Do you think it will always kind of be this kind of linear process we've had to date since like the century?
I think about it as two different philosophies, which is your goal to build a manufacturing service as a contract manufacturer, or are you optimizing for like the end product, right? And the algorithm is.
I'm gonna go for the life philosophy one. Let's see. All right, play. What happened? What happened?
Where do you invest the resources the fastest to like keep the game going as long as possible? Really not solve. What do you do? What you don't do? One of the mental models I have is like, what can be a spreadsheet the longest? You can never build all the software instantly. So you have to make all these trade-offs all the time and think about, okay, what's the most important thing? Is it equipment uptime? Is it stability of the whole factory? Is it the customer experience? Is it unit economics where we're making these more and more time? Like, what's the right place to put effort into different phases of the company to like make those trade-offs actually work?
Last question is, what's your current life philosophy?
My current life philosophy is, if we get this right, I will have spent 5 to 6 years working extremely hard in like near Elon mode, and I cannot keep up with someone like Elon or even someone like me, but like 90% of the way there. And then you should be setting up the business in a way where what I do on a day-to-day basis, making these decisions, is embedded in the decision-making culture of the company, like similar to how Amazon performs, where the system of building automated things, finding new market opportunities is like self-generating at that point. And then I think my life philosophy is you get to pick your costs. You get to pick your costs. And what I mean by that is a lot of people stumble through life, especially as a founder, and they go, oh, I don't have a great relationship. I don't have like a romantic partner. My employees kind of hate me. I haven't seen my friends for 2 years. And it's really like, and they go, oh, I don't have a great relationship. I don't have like a romantic partner. My employees kind of hate me. I haven't seen my friends for 2 years. And it's really like you set out to sea, you dive off a boat into a maelstrom without a life jacket. And so I think, for me personally, I think about Ulysses contracts a lot, which is a contract you make with yourself where you know you're sailing into the sirens. You know you're going to get distracted by all this stuff. And you forget what's important to you because you're like, in this maelstrom of the sea and getting distracted. But I think people forget that you can't do everything and you just have to pick. You have to decide what's important and then pick. And you're picking your costs. It's like, okay, do you want to invest in like having a dog or having like great friends or like having a great romantic partner or building a generationally large company? You can have shitty versions of all 5, or you can pick 3 good ones, and then like holding yourself accountable to what your life wants to look like and trying to do that with enough intention that you're picking, like, do you want a romantic partner while you're building a software company? Okay, you're going to spend less time with friends, like maybe you don't get to travel as much. Like, you get to do life however you want if you're smart, young, hungry, and have high agency. But I think people don't think enough about what they want their life to look like in 5 to 10 years and like think through what that really means and what they're not going to get to do, And you get to pick your costs, and deciding that for young people, I think, is important. It's so easy in this world to get massively distracted for a decade. And you wake up one day and you're 35 or whatever, and you're like, hey, I built this really amazing company, but like, I'm really unhappy. Like, I don't have kids, I don't have a partner, right? And thinking about what you want your life to look like and picking that for young people, I think, is important. It's so easy in this world to get massively distracted for a decade. And you wake up one day and you're 35 or whatever, and you're like, hey, I built this really amazing company, but like, I'm really unhappy. Like, I don't have kids, I don't have a partner, right? And thinking about what you want your life to look like and picking what costs you're going to take and being realistic about it. And then like how you live your day-to-day life minute by minute generates the macro. It's not about the big decisions. Like the little things are the things that matter. Do you call your friend? Do you call your partner? Do you like take care of your employees? Do you take care of your customers? And how you kind of build your own philosophy and system of work around what you want to see in the world is the most important thing. And annoyingly, as a leader, there are no tricks. It's all just downstream of it's like having kids. You can tell them like, hey, don't eat ice cream, but if you're fat and like eating ice cream at dinner, like that's the culture that you're thinking. Like this is not an easy problem to solve, because if you really believe it, you kind of just have to live it minute by minute. And I'm far from perfect, but that is the correct way to think about life and culture and how to like build a civilization or build a country, is like deciding what you want, deciding what costs you want to take, how you want to live, and then like the focus is being present and living it like minute by minute, and that ends up generating the big outcome versus just like, hey, I got this big idea, I'm gonna do this thing. You got to pick the person that you want to be, and behaving in that way as best as possible daily ends up generating what you want. I think people forget about that sometimes. We focus so much on metrics or building large companies or whatever that like that's kind of my life philosophy, and I have not got it all worked out. But that's the way I think people need to think about their lives, especially in this day and age where everyone's so distracted. There's so many algorithms.
This is beautiful. This is beautiful. I don't know what got me to pick Hadrian today, but this is beautiful because, yeah, as summer is rolling in, this is exactly what I'm thinking. Like you go down, you walk down the street, and there's so much distraction. You're like, there's so many things to do, so many people to meet, so many experiences to have, and it's important that you don't get distracted.
It's pulling for your attention. You have to really think about it and then hold yourself accountable to like, what am I focusing my attention on? And the universe will give you what you want, but if you get distracted with how you're behaving, it will give you the thing that you thought you want. And that's a really tricky game to play, but it's really important for young people especially who've got so many distractions as they're like growing up into like who they want to be.
Yeah, I know I said that was the last question, but your answer was great. It made me think of plush type. I also like asking the goal, and also like leads to me kind of talking to my generation, where I feel like we are some of the most well-off, well-educated, economically like set up people, yet like the vast majority, I think, of young people are mostly just like consuming content online.
Yes.
We say this as we're recording content on the internet, but in an effort to hopefully change that, how do you think? What do you think society, people, needs to do to maybe get more young people that are so freaking privileged and have all these great things to go and continue to use that to change the world rather than just kind of sitting real fat doing?
I think it's really tough. So I think this is what happens to large companies and civilizations across multiple generations. And I'm a big believer in books like The Fourth Turning and like being a student of history. And I think young people have to realize that the problems of their grandfathers or grandmothers are not the problems of today. One of the big things I think about is I believe humans have a complaint bucket. I have a complaint bucket. And everyone complains 20 to 30% of the time, depending on how neurotic you are. What you complain about as a young person today is actually extremely trivial compared to 3 generations ago, where the problem is like, hey, we're going to war with like the Nazis, or like the electricity grid doesn't work, right? And I think a return to reality and return to what's important is like really tricky to do in this day and age, where like we're extremely privileged in this country and we're forgetting what generated the success of the country in the first place. And again, it's the same thing as why our software engineers work next to our machines. It's getting back to that like industrial civilization level of context and importance. And it's a really tricky thing to do because you're operating off market signals of like these complex abstraction stacks, and it's going to be an interesting 10 years as we go through this generational turn of like what really matters. Yeah.
Chris, thank you for this. Thank you for building Hadrian. Thanks for having us.
That was amazing. This is 4th April.
3-2. I suppose it's a headquarters.
I'm lucky, but like 90% of the way there. And then you should be setting up the business in a way where what I do on a day-to-day basis, making these decisions, is embedded in the decision-making culture of the company, like similar to how Amazon performs, where the system of building automated things, finding new market opportunities is like self-generating at that point. And then I think my life philosophy is you get to pick your costs. You get to pick your costs. And what I mean by that is a lot of people stumble through life, especially as a founder, and they go, oh, I don't have a great relationship. I don't have like a romantic partner. My employees kind of hate me. I haven't seen my friends for 2 years. And it's really like you set out to sea, you dive off a boat into a maelstrom without a life jacket. And so I think for me personally, I think about Ulysses contracts a lot, which is a contract you make with yourself where you know you're sailing into the sirens. You know you're going to get distracted by all this stuff. and you forget what's important to you because you're like, in this maelstrom of the sea and getting distracted. But I think people forget that you can't do everything. You just have to pick. You have to decide what's important and pick. And you're picking your costs. It's like, okay, do you want to invest in like having a dog or having like great friends or like having a great romantic partner or building a generationally large company? You can have shitty versions of all five, or you can pick 3 good ones, and then like holding yourself accountable to what your life wants to look like, and trying to do that with enough intention that you're picking, like, do you want a romantic partner while you're building yourself? Okay, you're gonna spend less time with friends, like maybe you don't get to travel as much. Like, you get to do life however you want if you're smart, young, hungry, and have high agency. But I think people don't think enough about what they want their life to look like in 5 to 10 years, and like think through what that really means and what they're not going to get to do, and you get to pick your costs. And deciding that for young people, I think, is important. It's so easy in this world to get massively distracted for a decade, and you wake up one day and you're 35 or whatever, and you're like, hey, I built this really amazing company, but like I'm really unhappy, like I don't have kids, I don't have a partner, right? And thinking about what you want your life to look like and picking what costs you're going to take and being realistic about it, and then like how you live your day-to-day life minute by minute generates the macro. It's not about the big decisions. Like the little things are the things that matter. Do you call your friend? Do you call your partner? Do you like take care of your employees? Do you take care of your customers? And how you kind of build your own philosophy and system of work around what you want to see in the world is the most important thing. And annoyingly, as a leader, there are no tricks. It's all just downstream of it's like having kids. You can tell them like, hey, don't eat ice cream, but if you're fat and like eating ice cream at dinner, like that's the culture that you're thinking. Like this is not an easy problem to solve, because if you really believe it, you kind of just have to live it minute by minute. And I'm far from perfect, but that is the correct way to think about life and culture and how to like build a civilization and build a country, is like deciding what you want, deciding what costs you want to take, how you want to live, and then like the focus is being present and living it like minute by minute, and that ends up generating the big outcome versus just like, hey, I got this big idea, I'm gonna do this thing. You gotta pick the person that you want to be, and behaving in that way as best as possible daily ends up generating what you want. I think people forget about that sometimes. We focus so much on metrics or building large companies or whatever that like that's kind of my life philosophy, and I have not got it all worked out. But that's the way I think people need to think about their lives, especially in this day and age where everyone's so distracted. There's so many algorithms pulling for your attention. You have to really think about it and then hold yourself accountable to like, what am I focusing my attention on? And the universe will give you what you want, but if you get distracted with that.
What am I focusing my attention on? This is also very interesting. There's something that I was thinking about, that when I think about what am I doing over here, rabbit holes, diving into rabbit holes, it's very interesting to pick your rabbit hole, because anyway, the world is pulling you every single day into a rabbit hole. Instagram is pulling into a rabbit hole. YouTube is trying to pull you into algorithms. So this is where I choose my rabbit hole. And this is very interesting.
How you're behaving, it will give you the thing you thought you want. And that's a really tricky game to play, but it's really important for young people especially who've got so many distractions as they're like growing up into like who they want to be.
Yeah, I know I said that was the last question, but your answer was great. It made me think of a question I also like asking people, and also like being sitting on a dunking generation, where I feel like we are some of the most well-off, well-educated, economically armless, and just like consuming content. Don't we change that? How do you think? What do you think society, people, needs to do to maybe get more? I mean, men are so freaking privileged and have all these great things to go and continue to use that to change the world, rather than just kind of sitting real fat, join.
I think it's really tough. So I think this is what happens to large companies and civilizations across multiple generations. And I'm a big believer in books like The Fourth Turning and like being a student of history. And I think young people have to realize that the problems of their grandfathers or grandmothers are not the problems of today. One of the big things I think about is I believe humans have a complaint bucket. And everyone complains 20 to 30% of the time, depending on how neurotic you are. What you complain about as a young person today is actually extremely trivial compared to 3 generations ago, where the problem is like, hey, we're going to war with like the Nazis, or like the electricity grid doesn't work, right? And I think a return to reality and return to what's important is like really tricky to do in this day and age, where like we're extremely privileged in this country, and we're forgetting what generated the success of the country in the first place. And again, it's the same thing as why our software engineers work next to our machines. It's getting back to that like industrial civilization level of context and importance. And it's a really tricky thing to do, because you're operating off market signals, like these complex abstraction stacks, and it's going to be an interesting 10 years as we go through this generational turn of like what really matters. Yeah.
Chris, thank you for this. Thank you for building.
This was amazing. This life philosophy thing was amazing. This is the thing. Like this kind of content, this kind of clips won't come on my YouTube. These kind of clips won't just randomly show up as a rabbit hole that I would be pulled into. So yeah, you have to choose your rabbit hole. You have to design your rabbit hole. All right. We are finally getting into we have hit 29 minutes, and now we are finally getting into the Grok. California-based advanced manufacturing startup founded in 2020 by Chris Power. Focus on producing precision components. Yeah, if your last name is Power, you have to do something like power machining tools. For the aerospace and defense industries, the company aims to revolutionize the U.S. industrial base by building highly automated software defined factories that deliver parts faster and at lower cost, primarily for rocket satellites, jets, and drones. Their mission is to accelerate a democratic, abundant, spacefaring future by addressing supply chain inefficiencies and labor shortages in advanced manufacturing. Accelerated, democratic, abundant, and spacefaring future by addressing supply chain inefficiencies and labor shortages in advanced manufacturing. Hawthorne, California initial factory now closed. Torrance, California current main facility. Manufacture precision components, initially focusing on aluminium with plans to expand to steel, titanium, and Inconel. Delivers flight grade machine parts in 5 to 21 days compared to industry averages of 8 to 12 weeks, with 40% of orders typically late or defective. Delivers flight grade machined parts in 5 to 21 days compared to industry averages of 8 to 12 weeks, with 40% of orders typically late or defective. Uses automation and AI to enable one operator to run multiple CNC machines, increasing productivity and reducing reliance on highly specialized machinists. Offers real-time visibility into part production, including inspection results. Recent developments: launched Atlas, a program to streamline supply chain management for space startups, combining a vetted supply network with design for manufacturing startup. Acquired Datum Source, a SaaS platform connecting customers to machine shops for small batch prototyping, enhancing Hadrian's ability to scale from prototyping to full production. SaaS platform connecting customers to machine shops for small batch prototyping, enhancing Hadrian's ability to scale from prototyping to full production. Program to streamline supply chain management for space startups, combining a vetted supplier network with design for manufacturing software. Expanding to a second factory in Torrance, 5 times larger than their first, to meet the growing demand. Funding: raised approximately $220 million, including a $90 million Series A in 2022, Lux Capital A16Z, and a $117 million round in 24. Investors include Founders Fund, RTX, and others. So it's defense startups, largest client base, major defense primes, and tier 1 suppliers with a noted partnership with Anduril. Specific customers are not publicly disclosed. Okay. Employs former SpaceX, Tesla, and Anduril staff, among others. Yeah, the entire industry of SpaceX, Tesla, and Anduril alumni would be crazy. Trains individuals with no prior machining experience. Hires from Chick-fil-A or Walmart. Whoa. To produce spaceflight grade hardware within 30 to 60 days. Wait, tell me more. Tell me more. All right, we are here. To produce spaceflight grade hardware within 30 to 60 days, addressing the aging machinist workforce, average age in the mid 50s. Offers equity and higher than average pay to machinists, aiming to create high paying manufacturing jobs comparable to software engineering roles. Plans to build 10 to 20 mega factories across the US to serve both legacy contractors, Lockheed Martin, RTX, and new defense tech startups, Anduril, centralizing and modernizing the fragmented supply chain. Challenges and criticism. Some machinists and industry observers question whether Hadrian's automation software are truly groundbreaking comparing to existing solutions like ProShop or JobBoss. It may repackage existing technologies for VC appeal. Profitability and sustainability, with some suggesting startups like Hadrian may cut wages or stagnate if not acquired. Aiming to create high-paying manufacturing jobs comparable to software engineering roles. 10 to 20 mega factories across the US to serve both legacy contractors and new defense tech startups. Manufacturing Inc. Oh yeah, we were looking into Hadrian, and this is not the Hadrian we are looking into. Okay. Prominence in recent news and significant funding, however, appears frequently in searches due to longer history and established presence. Alright, and we will look at the website too later on. Alright. Develop a unique training program to address the shortage of skilled machinists in the US aerospace and defense manufacturing sector. This initiative is particularly notable for its approach to hiring and training individuals with no prior machining experience, including those from non-technical backgrounds. Target audience. Hadrian deliberately recruits individuals without machining experience, focusing on those from unrelated fields like retail, hospitality, or service industries. Tap into a broader talent pool, bypassing the traditional requirement for years of machining apprenticeship. Rapid skill development. Within 30 to 60 days, hands-on and software-driven proprietary software, highly automated factory systems, operate CNC machines, standardized processes, reducing the need for deep technical expertise. For example, one operator can oversee multiple CNC machines simultaneously with software handling, programming, and setup, mentorship, and iteration, paired with experienced staff mainly from SpaceX, Tesla, or Anduril for guidance. The training emphasizes iterative learning, allowing trainees to quickly adapt to high-precision manufacturing environments. Automation. Minimize manual intervention. CNC machines, robotic arms, and AI-driven quality control systems handle repetitive or complex tasks, lowering the skill barrier for new operators. Real-time feedback guides machining processes and ensures parts meet stringent aerospace standards. Tolerance for flight-grade components. This reduces the need for trainees to master traditional machining skills they like manual programming or tool setup. Dashboards to monitor production, which with built-in checks to catch errors early, enabling faster learning curves. High productivity. After training, a single operator can manage multiple machines, producing parts faster than traditional shops. Quality assurance. Trainees produce components that meet aerospace and defense standards, with Hadrian reporting a significant reduction in defective or late orders compared to industry norms. Quality assurance, high productivity. Career transformation. Cost and speed. Estimated 2.1 million manufacturing jobs unfilled by 2030 due to retirements and lack of new talent. Bypasses this bottleneck by creating its own talent pipeline. Cost and speed. By training non-specialists, Hadrian reduces dependency on expensive, hard-to-find machinists, lowering labor costs and enabling faster scaling of production. Positions manufacturing jobs as aspirational akin to software engineering roles by offering equity, competitive pay, and tech-driven work environment. Inspiration from tech companies. Tesla and SpaceX, where standardized processes and automation enable rapid prototyping or rapid onboarding. Draw from SpaceX's playbook of rethinking traditional manufacturing. Comparison to industry norms. 30 to 60 timeline is a radical departure made possible by automation and software. Skepticism, funding and growth, customer traction, public statements, job opportunities, cultural appeal, specific examples. Wow. It is really cool how hard I'm just thinking about today, like it's incredible how hard I worked today. It was just constant towards the same goal, constant towards the goal. Wow. All right. We'll look at the Hadrian website first. Okay. It's a design like a very manufacturing style. Yeah, it doesn't look like a founders fund high-tech startup website. Media's interview, manufacturing 101, state and future of space. Hadrian is building the factories of the future. Highly automated factories that will accelerate the entire advanced manufacturing sector and bring the future forward faster. And I love this photo. It's like no beautiful photos of the factory. It's just like, yeah, we're building the planet's most efficient factories to accelerate a free, abundant, spacefaring future. America's space and defense industry is bottlenecked by the capacity of a network of owner-operated machine shops that produce precision metal components. Building a series of highly automated precision component factories across the US to enable space and defense manufacturers get parts 10x faster and half the cost of making rocket satellites, jets, and drones. Ultra reliable, transparent, FAI to final. Real-time visibility of our parts in our factory and supply chain, including inspection results as they happen. And here are the investors. Founders fund Lux and Andreessen Horowitz construct caffeinated capital. 90 million in new capital to manufacture the future. Series A prime announcement. Brandon Reeves from Lux and Catherine Boyle will be joining Hadrian's board. Catherine Boyle, American Dynamism. Let's go. Major participation from Lackey Room. Okay. Brandon Reeves. I believe I follow Brandon Reeves on Twitter. In the 12 months since the seed round, built and operationalized Factory 1, grown our team of builders from 6 to 40 plus. We can make spaceflight grade pods 10x faster, more than 40% more efficiently than the legacy advanced manufacturing supply chain. Begin serving several of the US's most prominent rocket and satellite manufacturers. Proven that our simplified systems can enable operators with zero machining experience to produce spaceflight grade hardware with less than 60 days of training. Grow our team to 100 plus, creating new highly paying manufacturing jobs along the way. Launch Factory 2. Launch steels and other hard metals. Our mission. With the world order looking more uncertain by the day and supply chain issues rocking the country, Hadrian's mission is to transform the US industrial base. Hadrian's mission to transform the US industrial base has never been more important. Being the planet's most efficient factory means nothing unless we can scale up to billions in revenue capacity fast enough to replace the aging high-precision machining supply chain in the US. If we don't, our most important space and defense companies will be caught flat-footed in what might be the most critical decade in the US's history. By enabling all US advanced manufacturers in space, defense, semiconductor, energy, and medical devices to make their products 10x faster and 50% cheaper, Hadrian will empower US-aligned actors. Hadrian will empower US-aligned actors to win Space Race 2 and maintain peace through strength on Earth, in orbit, and in cis-lunar space. We don't even know what that is. Okay. Hadrian will empower US-aligned actors to win Space Race 2 and maintain peace through strength on Earth, in orbit, and in cis-lunar space. If collectively, alongside our customers, we meet those twin goals, we will have ensured that as humanity settles the solar system and steps up to face the geopolitical and social challenges of the 2020s, it is led by actors aligned with a free and peaceful global order, not led by a totalitarian regime that has increasingly shown little regard for human life. If Hadrian can play a small part in bending the arc of history towards the free, the brave, and the best humanity has to offer, our toil will have been worth it. The future is within reach and it's up to us to manufacture it. Okay, let's see the Atlas program. Join the invite-only beta for the Atlas program. With Atlas, Hadrian is extending its proven approach to mass production into NPI, removing barriers and enabling startups to iterate faster and innovate freely. A tailored solution for startups, addressing industry challenges. Why now? What makes Atlas different? Driving innovation through manufacturing excellence. About Hadrian. The hardware ecosystem is experiencing a surge of new aerospace and defense startups, fueled by fresh investment and renewed energy across the sector. These companies are innovating at a rapid pace but often face significant hurdles when transitioning from prototype to production. At the same time, shifts in government priorities toward reshoring advanced manufacturing and strengthening defense capabilities are creating opportunities for manufacturers that can adapt quickly and deliver reliably. Hadrian's expansion into startups and NPI is a direct response to these trends. Positioned to transform how startups innovate. As the pace of innovation accelerates, startups need a partner that can move as fast as they do while maintaining the highest quality standards. By expanding our manufacturing capabilities with Atlas, we are creating a tailored solution for startups to seamlessly transition from NPI to production without the need to rebuild their supply chains. A tailored solution. And this is from Andrew. Okay, Look at this photo. Yeah, this is what we need. Like just one photo that shows us how a factory looks like. Too much over national security depends on long, complex, and brittle supply chains. It is an error-prone system in a space where there is zero room for error. Head of supply chain at Andrew. No system where coal production lines and unproductive workers. No system where coal production lines and unproductive workers are a feature, not a bug, serves the country well. The solution is the fast, flexible approach to production that Hadrian is pioneering, which recently closed a 90 million Series A round, established Factory 1 in Hawthorne last year. The company recently opened Factory 2 in Torrance, California. Pairing the world's most transformational manufacturing company with the most disruptive defense company makes sense. Hadrian is committed to building pathways around current manpower and supply chain bottlenecks and inspiring a new generation of manufacturers to support America's national security needs and its aspiration in space. It's a commitment we share with Anduril. Hadrian looks forward to making some of Anduril's key components faster and cheaper. Leader in advanced manufacturing have announced a strategic partnership in which Hadrian will supply and manufacture precision parts for Anduril's suite of autonomous systems. Ideal partner, Matt Grimm. The defense manufacturing base cannot supply critical assets to the DoD or allies within a relevant time frame. Anduril recognizes that deterrence begins on the factory floor, and so we design for manufacturing at the beginning of a development process. As a partnership with Hadrian evolves, we'll continue to find ways to increase the pace at which we can deliver components and capabilities at scale and ensure we are able to mitigate interruptions in supply chain. Let's see. Explain how Hadrian's manufacturing factory works. Oh wow, too much thinking. Software-defined manufacturing, where automation, AI, and data-driven systems minimize manual intervention and optimize production. Automation for CNC machines, robotic arms, and automated inspection systems handle repetitive and complex tasks, reducing reliance on highly skilled machinists. Standardization, standardized workflows and software ensure consistency across parts, enabling scalability and rapid onboarding of new operators. Speed and transparency, real-time tracking of production and inspection data allows for faster delivery and full visibility for customers. Factories are recognized to serve both small batch prototyping and high volume production, with plans for 10 to 20 mega factories across the US. Manufacturing process flow, end-to-end system from order intake to part delivery. Here's how the process works: order intake and design integration, customer input. Clients, tier 1 suppliers, or primes like Anduril submit part designs via Hadrian's platform, often through the Atlas program, which integrates the design for manufacturing software. Design optimization. Hadrian software analyzes designs for manufacturability, suggesting tweaks to reduce cost of production time, adjusting tolerances or material choices. The acquired Datum source platform enhances this by connecting customers to prototyping capabilities before scaling to production. Design for manufacturing software. Okay. Design optimization, suggesting tweaks to reduce cost or production time. Quoting and scheduling. The system generates quotes and schedules production based on factory capacity, material availability, and urgency, ensuring transparency on lead times. Material preparation. The factory stocks aerospace-grade materials, primarily aluminium, with plans for titanium and Inconel. What is that? Whoa. That's a lot of process. Okay, let's see. Using automated systems to minimize waste. Materials are prepped, cut to size, using automated systems to minimize waste. Inventory management. Software tracks material usage and reorder points, integrating with Hadrian's varied supply network to prevent delay. Software tracks material usage and reorder points, integrating with Hadrian's varied supply network to prevent delay. Machining and production, CNC machining. The core of Hadrian's production is its fleet of CNC machines which carve precision components from raw materials. These machines are highly automated with software programming, tool paths, and optimizing cuts, capable of running multiple jobs simultaneously managed by a single operator, equipped with sensors for real-time monitoring of tool wear, vibration, and accuracy. The core of Hadrian's production is its fleet of CNC, computer numeric control machines, which carve precision components from raw materials. Highly automated with software programming, tool paths, and optimizing cuts, capable of running multiple jobs simultaneously managed by a single operator, equipped with sensors for real-time monitoring of tool wear, vibration, and accuracy. Robotic assistance. Robotic arms handle material loading, unloading, tool changes, and part transfer between machines, reducing manual labor. Software control. Hadrian's proprietary software orchestrates the production floor, prioritizing jobs, assigning machines, and ensuring parts meet tight aerospace tolerances. Inches for critical components. Proprietary software orchestrates the production floor, prioritizing jobs, assigning machines, and ensuring parts meet tight aerospace tolerances. Multi-machine operation. One operator can oversee 3 to 5 CNC machines thanks to automation and intuitive interfaces compared to traditional shops where one machinist typically manages one machine. Quality control and inspection. Parts undergo in-process and final inspections using coordinate measuring machines, laser scanners, and AI-driven vision systems to verify dimension, surface finish, and material integrity. Real-time feedback. Inspection data is fed into the software, flagging deviations instantly. Operators receive alerts to adjust machining parameters if needed. Traceability. Track with a digital record of its production history, including machine used, operator inspection results, ensuring compliance with aerospace standards AS9100. Finishing and delivery. Post-processing. Parts may undergo finishing steps like deburring, anodizing, or heat treatment, often handled by automated systems or outsourced to Hadrian's supply network. Finishing and delivery. Packaging and shipping. Finished parts are packaged with protective coatings and shipped to customers, with delivery times averaging 5 to 21 days. Customer portal. Clients access real-time updates on order status, inspection reports, and delivery tracking through Hadrian's platform. Technology stack. Fusion of hardware, So post-processing is also done. Technology stack. Fusion of hardware and software, drawing inspiration from tech-driven manufacturers like SpaceX and Tesla. Proprietary software manages the entire production lifecycle from quoting to quality control. Provides operators with user-friendly dashboards to monitor machines and troubleshoot issues. Integrates GFM tools to optimize designs before production. CNC machines likely include multi-axis mills and lathes from brands like Haas, DMG, Mori, or Mazak. Customized for Hadrian's automation needs. Robotics. Industrial arms. Universal robots, FANUC, for material handling and machine tending. Predictive maintenance, detecting tool wear, optimizing machining parameters, and analyzing inspection data. IoT and sensors. Machines are fitted with sensors to collect data on performance, enabling real-time adjustments and minimizing downtime. Factory relies on a lean, tech-savvy workforce with a unique approach to training. Non-traditional hires, often recruited from unrelated fields, retail workers from Chick-fil-A or Walmart with no prior machining experience. Automation is a multiplier. One operator can manage multiple machines. Experienced oversight. Operational efficiency metrics: lead times 5 to 21 days versus industry average 8 to 12 weeks. Defect rate significantly lower than the industry's 40% late or defective order rate thanks to automated quality checks. Operator productivity: 3 to 5 traditional machinists enabled by automation scalability. Connecting customers to a vetted supply network for non-core processes, providing DFM software to optimize designs before production, reducing iteration, streamlining prototyping to production transitions. Challenges and limitation: flexibility, upfront cost, workforce risk, industry skepticism, broader impact, supply chain modernization, workforce transformation, strategic importance. Technical deep dive: visuals or data comparison, specific questions. Alright, what is Inconel? Family of high performance nickel chromium based super alloys known for their exceptional strength, corrosion resistance, and ability to withstand extreme temperatures and harsh environments. Developed by Special Metals Corporation, Inconel alloys are widely used in aerospace, defense, power generation, and chemical processing industries for components that must endure high stress, heat, and corrosive conditions. Key characteristics of Inconel: high temperature resistance. Inconel maintains strength and structural integrity at temperatures ranging from cryogenic levels to over 1000 degrees Celsius, depending on the alloy. Ideal for applications like jet engine turbine blades, rocket nozzles, and gas turbine components. Corrosion and oxidation resistance: resistant to oxidation, pitting, and corrosion in aggressive environments, including saltwater, acidic chemicals, and high pressure steam, commonly used in marine, chemical processing, and nuclear applications. High strength and durability: exhibits excellent mechanical strength even under cyclic loading or high stress, making it suitable for high performance parts. Retains toughness in extreme conditions, resisting creep, deformation under prolonged stress, and fatigue. Workability challenges: Inconel is notoriously difficult to machine due to its hardness and tendency to work hard during cutting, requiring specialized tools and techniques. Carbide tools, low cutting speeds. Hadrian's factories, as mentioned in your context, plan to expand into machining Inconel, leveraging automation to overcome these challenges. High temperature resistance, corrosion and oxidation resistance, high strength and durability, workability challenges. Work hardened during cutting. Common Inconel alloys: Inconel 600, high corrosion resistance used in chemical processing and heat exchangers. 625, excellent strength and weldability, common in aerospace, exhaust systems, and marine applications. 718, high strength and fatigue resistance, widely used in jet engines, rocket components, and gas turbines. Accounts for a significant portion of aerospace superalloy use. X750, enhanced strength for high stress applications like springs and fasteners. Nickel 50 to 70% provides corrosion resistance and high temperature stability. Chromium enhances oxidation resistance. Iron, molybdenum, niobium, titanium added in varying amounts to improve strength, creep resistance, or weldability depending on the alloy. Applications in aerospace. Okay, really cool. All right, with that, we end the stream. Thank you.